All right. So I sent out messages to those that aren't here yet. So we're going to get started. Lesson 2.4, creating and solving inequalities. Your essential question, how do you write and solve an inequality that is not strictly equal? So if it was strictly equal, that wouldn't be an inequality, that would be an equation. And so we've been working with equations, but now we're going to work with inequalities. And just to remind you what that is, it's a statement that compares two expressions that are not strictly equal by using one of the following inequality signs. We have the less than symbol, that is less than or equal to symbol, greater than symbol is greater than or equal to symbol, and the is not equal to. Those are all different inequality symbols that we use in math. And when you're using those symbols and you're trying to remember what one goes which way, you can think about the alligator mouth, right? You know, when you're in elementary school and you would compare two numbers like 10 on one side and 11 on this side, well, the alligator would always want to eat the bigger number, right? Because he wants the bigger meal. So the open sign goes towards the bigger value. And now when we use inequalities with algebraic expressions and we have variables in there, you can actually substitute in values to try to make sense of which way your inequality sign should face. And I'll show you how to do that today. So if we want to compare solving an inequality with solving an equation, certain things are the same, and then there's something is different. So in both cases, you first apply the distributive property if you need it, and then use inverse operations to isolate the variable. That's exactly how you solve an equation, same thing. Most operations are the same for solving equations and inequalities, but the difference would be when you multiply or divide both sides of an equation, an inequality by a negative number. So if you multiply or divide both sides of an inequality by a negative, you have to reverse your inequality sign. You have to flip that sign around. If it was facing this way, you got to face it that way. You keep it the same as far as less than or greater than, or if you had that or equal to part, you would also keep that with it. All right, so this first example, we're going to write an inequality that represents the description. Max has more than 5 carrots. The number of carrots Max has is C. So the variable we're using is C, and we're comparing it to the number 5. And so I have to decide if I'm going to use the less than or the greater than symbol. Well, the keywords more than means greater than. So when I write it down, I get C is greater than 5. And if I'm not sure if that makes sense or not, the way you can check when you have those variables there, like is the symbol really, you know, trying to eat the bigger value? So choose the value that makes sense with the situation. The situation is Max has more than 5 carrots. So if he had 7 carrots, that would be true. So if I put a 7 where the C is, then the mouth is trying to eat the 7. And that's good. That's what I want to happen. So you can always check by substituting out your variable for a number that would make sense in the situation. All right, you're going to try one now. You're going to write an inequality that represents this situation. Okay, Bridget is shorter than 5 feet. Bridget is shorter than 5 feet. And we're going to use H for her height. I have 9 of 22 responses. So shorter than, would that mean that you use the is less than symbol, or would you use the is greater than symbol? Shorter than. We're going to put the variable h, a symbol, and then the number 5. And, you know, if you're not sure what it should look like, think about some possible values and see if they make sense. So if Bridget is shorter than 5 feet, maybe she's 4 feet. So if I replace the h with a 4, what symbol would have to go between 4 and 5 for it to make sense? We have h is greater than 5, h is less than 5. H is less than 5, h minus 5. 4 is greater than 5, 4 is less than 5. H equals 5, 5 equals h. H is less than 5, h is less than 5. H is less than 5. That's what you guys want, okay? So it's an inequality. We need an inequality symbol. And we're comparing her height to 5 feet. All we know is she's shorter than. She's less than 5 feet. So H is less than 5. What phrases in a problem can be represented by the greater than or equal to symbol? Well, if you actually see the words greater than or equal to, that would mean to use that symbol. Also, the words at least or no less than. And what phrases in a problem can be represented by the is less than or equal to symbol? Less than or equal to, okay? At most, or no more than. So those are some key terms that mean those symbols. We are now going to write an inequality that represents the description here, and then we're going to solve it. So first we're going to write the inequality. So let's see, we have Dave has $15 to spend on an $8 book and 2 birthday cards, C, for his friends. How much can he spend on each card if he buys the same card for each friend? So Dave's going shopping and he has a budget of $15. So this is going to be an inequality because he doesn't have to spend exactly $15. He has to spend any number less than 15 or even all the way up to 15. We're going to pretend there's no tax in this problem, okay? He can't spend more than that because he doesn't have the money. So when it comes to the symbol that we want, we're going to be using is less than or equal to. We're going to put all of his purchases and make that is less than or equal to his budget of $15. So his purchases, we have an $8 book and 2 birthday cards. The unknown is the amount of money that the birthday cards cost. That's what we're trying to figure out. How can we maximize what he can spend here? And so C is our unknown. C is the variable that represents the cost of the card, and we know there's 2 of them. So if I total up his purchases, that's where we use addition. So this is our inequality. 2C plus 8 is less than or equal to 15. You could also have C plus 8 is less than or equal to 15. But because C and C, those are the same term, we could combine it together to 2C. So it's a little bit more simplified. All right, so now that we have our inequality, we're going to solve it. When you solve an inequality, it's just like solving an equation. All right, we're going to look and see, do we have any like terms that we can combine? 2C is a term that has a C. 8 is a constant. 15 is a constant. 8 and 15 are constants. Those are like terms. I can combine them. So when I'm trying to decide if I want to subtract 8 from both sides or if I want to subtract 15 from both sides, it depends on where my variable is. My variable, C, is on the left. So I'm going to move my constants to the right. In order to do that, I subtract 8 from both sides of the equation, which would give me 2c is less than or equal to 7. So on one side, I have my term with the variable. On the other side, I have a constant. I need to isolate my variable. 2c means 2 multiplied by c. To undo multiplication, when you're solving an equation, you would use division. When you are trying to solve an inequality, like we have here, same thing, we're going to use division. I'm going to divide 2c by 2 so that c becomes isolated. Once I divide both sides by the same value, that keeps my inequality in balance. I get c is less than or equal to $3.50. I didn't have to worry about flipping my sign around. The only difference between equations and inequalities when you solve them is that with inequalities, if you multiply or divide by a negative, you have to flip your sign. I didn't have to worry about that here. So C, the cost of a card, he will have enough money as long as he stays within a budget of $3.50 for the birthday card that he wants to buy. Okay, so it's your turn. First, you're going to write an inequality. And to write it, it's really easy. It's just going to be a multiple choice question. So we have Tony, and she can carry up to 18 pounds in her backpack. Her lunch weighs 1 pound. Her gym clothes weigh 2 pounds. And her books, B, weigh 3 pounds each. So B, our unknown, is the number of books. We don't know how many books. We just know that each book weighs 3 pounds. How many books can she carry in her backpack? What is the inequality that represents this situation? You have two choices. Notice that on the left-hand side, in both choices, we have 3b plus 1 plus 2. 3 is the weight of the number of books. 1 is the weight of the lunch. 2 is the weight of the clothes. If I add all that together, should it be less than or equal to 18, or should it be greater than or equal to 18? What does the first sentence tell us in our example? Tony can carry up to 18 pounds. So think about appropriate values for the situation. You know, if Tony can only carry up to 18 pounds in her backpack, what is she going to do if her backpack weighs 20 pounds? Is she going to be okay? What if her backpack weighs 15 pounds? Is she going to be okay? What value works? One of those works, one of them doesn't. You have to plug in the inequality symbol that makes sense for the situation. Okay, right now we're kind of split. 11 of you say A, 7 of you say B. Remember, with both of these inequalities, the left-hand side is the total weight of her items in the backpack. The 18 represents the most she can carry. So which symbol makes sense for this situation? Most of you have it right now, okay? We have to choose numbers that are up to 18, can include 18 or up to 18. So if I picked a number like 15 and I plugged it in, it has to make sense. 15 is definitely less than or equal to 18. If I picked a number like 20, it wouldn't make any sense because she can't carry 20 pounds. She can only carry 18 pounds. She's weak. All right, so we know the inequality. Now you guys get to solve the inequality. You're going to solve it just like it's an equation. Same idea. Okay, combine like terms. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you do to the other side of the equation. The only thing you have to watch out for is when you multiply or divide by a negative. That's not going to happen in this problem. This problem looks a little bit different than the problem we worked out together, the last one. My last example with you guys had 3 terms. This inequality has 4 terms. 4 things being added. 3b is a term, 1 is a term, 2 is a term, 18 is a term. Combine like terms first. Combine like terms on the same side of the inequality symbol first. On the left, 1 and 2, they're like. When they're on the same side, use the same operation that you see. 1 plus 2 is 3. Once you've combined all like terms that are on the same side of an inequality symbol, then you can combine like terms that are on opposite sides. 3 and 18 are like terms that are on opposite sides. You have to use the opposite operation. What's 18 minus 3? 15. 3b is less than or equal to 15. You have to do one more thing to get your answer. 3b means 3 multiplied by b. 3 multiplied by b, to undo multiplication, I use division. Come and divide both sides by 3. b is less than or equal to 5. 5. This is the end of the notes. We're going to go into Delta Math next, and we're going to practice solving some inequalities in there. Okay, so go ahead and you can close your Pear Deck tab, and you're going to go back to your week at a glance, and you're going to go to Delta Math and find your assignment.